everybody, and welcome to a new episode of Overruled. I'm so glad you could join us. My guests, of course, but everybody who's watching right now, too. Glad to see you in the chat. First of all, I'd like to welcome my other Hawkhound Media hosts. Thank you for joining me on this very special day. I have plans tomorrow, but I didn't want to play another rerun like I do every other times I have plans on a Sunday, so I figured we'd do it Saturday night.
Yeah, I like it.
Welcome to the Hawkhound crew. Abby Libby, nice to see you.
Hey.
How are you doing tonight? Good?
I'm good.
Good. PJ?
Hey, what's going on?
Of course, PJ and Abby are from Conspiracy Pilled. If you're not subscribed to their channel, definitely check that out. And my new best friend, Jess from Lit.
Hey.
Only because you're wearing my merch right now.
This is seriously my favorite.
If you're not
it's so comfortable. I wore it to jury duty, and I'm pretty sure that's what got me out of it. So
that's amazing. Amazing. Yes. So just so you guys know, if you're looking to get out of jury duty, definitely pick up pick up some Overruled. There's the hoodie right there, and pick up some Overruled merch to get out of jury duty.
It's seriously so comfortable.
Good selling point.
Did that work for you? Is that what we're thinking was the? I like it.
It could be that, or it could be that the government doesn't work. I mean,
Yeah, that's well.
Yeah. I'm going to blame the hoodie.
I like it.
Were you just eliminated by the lawyers in the case, or?
I never saw a lawyer. I never saw a judge. I sat in a room for probably 12 hours over 3 days.
I would be called in. Mad because I would get so excited if I got called. Like I've never gotten a jury duty summons before, and I want to serve on a jury so bad.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I got 400 pages deep into a 700-page book.
I don't know if you guys know this about me, but I'm very good at judging people, so I do perfect jury.
It's kind of your superpower.
It really is.
Yeah, they just took one look at Jess and they're like, oh, she's a fan of that demonetized crime tuber.
Right.
So let's
right.
Forget her. So today I had you guys come on because we're going to be talking about Frank Freshwaters. And I think the reason I invited you guys on is because I always cover people who are out or who are in prison, who other people are trying to get out, who I think totally did it. And I think PJ is the one that mentioned, hey, why don't you cover somebody who was in jail that actually didn't do it? And I found this case, and I'm like, you guys come on for this one. So I hadn't heard of Frank Freshwaters before looking for, I sought this case out to look for this case. And it turns out he had escaped from prison. I'm kind of ruining the end, but it says it in the thumbnail.
I was gonna say it's on the thumbnail.
Yeah.
So
he escaped from prison and was on the lam for he's the longest captured escapee from prison ever in U.S. history. So, which I thought was kind of cool.
That's kind of cool.
So, just to get into the story.
Wait, did they eventually get him or no?
They did. They did get him. Yeah. So this is early 1947 in Akron, Ohio. This guy was.
That checks out.
Is that why you did this episode this week? Because we just did a whole episode about Ohio.
I actually did not. I did not. Somebody gave her
sound effects now. I like it.
Yeah. Ava's. So early 1947 in Akron, Ohio, this guy, Frank Freshwaters, was a banker and
guilty.
Right. So
yeah, I thought you were covering a guy who wasn't guilty. A banker?
Well, yeah. I mean, he was guilty of some stuff. Not what he went to prison for, though.
Okay.
I'll get into
it.
He was definitely guilty of some stuff. I mean, he was no innocent angel like myself.
Right. You know? Well, few are. You
get what I mean. So the police get a call on March 31st, 1947, and they arrive at the home of the Freshwaters family in Akron, Ohio. The call is from the neighbors. Apparently, they were church friends, and they had a play date. And they get to the house. Let's see. They were supposed to take their kids to the park. When the couple gets to the house, no one answers the door. The husband, his name's Jack Brown. He tested the door and it's unlocked. So he walks in to see like what's going on, which I kind of remember when I was a kid, people just walking in my house. Like
I had a best friend in high school, and his parents would get mad at me if I knocked because I was
Yeah.
over there so much. Like, just come in the house.
Yeah,
Like,
my house was
seriously.
always open, and my dad would worked overnight sometimes. So my mom would get mad if somebody knocked on the door in the dog bark and woke my dad up. Which
I
PJ,
know
you
that
could
life.
probably
I know that life. Yeah. I'm like, just come in. Don't wake me.
exactly.
Burglar, just come in. Just stab me
Take
while I'm asleep.
anything that's not in my bedroom and then
Right.
leave. You know,
Exactly. Don't just
I
as
don't
long
get
as
enough sleep as it is.
as long as the dog doesn't bark, it's fine.
That's what insurance is for.
Right.
Yeah.
Not.
You're gonna get
If you've
robbed and
ever had
insurance
to
is gonna
deal
clip
with that type of insurance, I tell you, it takes 2 years to get
Oh
anything.
my god.
Oh, yikes.
Yeah, true. Homeowners insurance, yeah.
It's the worst. Yeah, it's the worst.
Okay, so he walks inside and he starts looking around and he doesn't really see anything disturbed until he gets to the bedroom. That's where everything went down. So he gets there's some in the carpet just outside the master bedroom, there's some bloody footprints, just kind of faint in the carpet. And he opens the door. I don't know if he opened the door. I just made that up in my head. Maybe the door was already open. Not sure. But he looks in the bedroom and he sees 2 dead people on the bed. And he obviously assumes that it's Frank and his wife Lois. Turns out it wasn't. It was Lois, but it wasn't Frank. That's how
Plot
he ends up-
twist.
Yeah, exactly. So
And he's not guilty?
He's not guilty.
Okay. Okay.
Well, I mean, he might be, but I don't know. We'll see.
Okay. We'll see.
You don't think he's guilty?
I personally don't think he's guilty for one specific reason.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. So, Jack makes sure his wife and his kids stay in the car, or whatever. He goes to a neighbor, calls the police. The police get there and start their investigation. And sorry. Let's see. Okay. Oh, there's a crime scene photo. That's what I'm
Okay.
missing.
Yeah.
There-
Here we go.
There exactly. So yeah, 2 people were in this bed and there's blood flipping everywhere. Is there? Yeah, there's a couple of crime scene
Yeah, there are a
photos from
couple.
this.
Here's one from the carpet
Yeah,
print.
crazy, right? So
I have another one. Hold on.
okay.
I'll pull up. Be like 2 seconds.
So with the size of that bed, I'm guessing they weren't just like, on opposite sides, just taking a nap kind of thing. Yeah. Okay.
Nah, they weren't taking a nap,
Okay.
that's for sure. So each victim, you could put the photo up while I'm talking if you
Okay.
find it or whatever.
Yeah.
Each victim had been shot 4 times in multiple different places. So it wasn't just like all in the head or all in the body or whatever. I think the wife actually had one like in her hand, like she was putting her hand up, like trying to block.
Oh, yeah.
Mm,
So they saw
Yeah.
it coming.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, exactly. There was bruising on the the unknown male's face as well, and his nose was broken, suggesting that he got into a fight with the killer beforehand. Which is why Frank Freshwater, like, obviously, it seems like he walked in on his wife and beat this guy up and then shot them both. That's really what it looks like here.
I mean, that's definitely the go-to, right? Like in any of these crime scenes, like especially when it's a cheating spouse, like that's
Yeah,
most of the time true.
yeah, exactly. Especially back then, like people, I mean, maybe not. I guess it happens today too. This is the oldest case I think I've ever covered.
This
but I-
happened in an apartment complex I was in while I was there. Actually,
Really?
yeah, it's
Oh,
the only
yikes.
time I ever heard
So it
someone
does
get
still happen.
murdered, and I didn't know
Wait,
exactly what it was at the
did
time. But I
you-
heard the gunshot, and I was like, "What the hell?" And
that sounds like an
it was a
interesting
big deal.
case.
Yeah. So
Maybe we need
guy
to
walked
cover
in
that.
on his wife in the apartment, like
Oh my god.
right down from me. Yeah.
that's too
Well,
much.
yeah, that's a
Wow.
lot.
It was our last day living there too. We were moving out
course
the
it
next
was.
day.
Of course it
At
was.
least you got out of there.
Yeah.
I didn't realize that, or I would have given you a trigger warning, PJ.
Oh, I'm not so good.
Although
Trigger
I don't-
warning.
I didn't
Get
know
it?
these people. Yeah.
I
so-
don't really do trigger warnings on my channel because it's
I don't need one,
obviously
I'm
a
good.
true crime channel. So if you need a trigger warning, maybe don't
You're listening to
click-
the wrong type of
Yeah,
content. Yeah.
Don't
Yeah.
click on a true crime channel.
Yeah.
Whenever I'm watching true crime channels and I see people do trigger warnings, I'm like, what are you Like, they're on a true crime channel. What do they need a warning for? Like, yes, there's going to be like sexual assault and murder and like all sorts of bad stuff happening to kids. Like,
are you saying that on a true crime channel you might cover crimes?
Crime, yeah. Exactly.
Whoa.
Exactly that.
No way.
Mind blowing. No. I'm just glad they put one on the beginning of Peter Pan. I was watching that my whole life wrong. You didn't know that?
Yeah,
it's Disney like, Plus. There's a warning on trigger.
It's
trigger
racially insensitive or something like that. Yeah, they did that on Lady and the Tramp too. There's a trigger warning for that.
For what's wrong with Lady and the Tramp?
The Siamese cats.
Oh,
that's seriously the thing.
That's seriously the thing.
That's the best part of the movie,
right?
For sure. It's the only part I remember.
Me too. Okay,
everyone knows Siamese cats are assholes.
They really are. I mean, most cats, but not your cats, Abby. Not your cats.
Yeah, they also caused a worldwide pandemic for 2 years. So,
I mean, was it cats or bats?
It was the Siamese virus.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Does it come? Yeah.
All right, sorry.
Okay. We don't do that.
I'm so glad we all have controls that we can when I have you guys on. You all have controls. So there's blood on the pillows, other fluids on the bed.
Yikes.
The fluids belonged, it was the I almost said DNA type, but not DNA type, blood type. They could do blood typing of an unknown male that did not match Linda or Frank. The footprints on the carpet obviously belonged to the guy who shot them, like just the way they were, and they were a size 11 and a half, which I think are pretty big feet.
That's fairly big.
11 and a half.
It's bigger than normal, but it's not like huge.
It's not like basketball player huge, but
no, I've got a friend who wears like size 15s.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's really hard to buy shoes for him.
I bet.
Just special order him.
Yeah.
And there was a rag in the sink with blood on it also. And it was the rag, it was actually a towel like from the bathroom, and it was part of like a set, like a matching set of towels from the bathroom. I remember when
people had monogram bathroom towels.
Yeah, I remember there was towels in my bathroom growing up that we weren't allowed to touch. They were
we had plates we weren't allowed to touch.
Yeah, you don't touch.
I remember
why was it always
China.
like that?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Why was that a thing? Like, legitimately, like, hey, here's a useful item everybody needs in their home. Let's make sure you never touch it, and it's just on display.
I can remember there was like a little
weird show of
scalloped
wealth.
ruffles at the bottom of it, like
Rich people.
I grew up in a trailer park, so I'm just going off of other people's stories.
Well, if you would have stopped burning down all your houses, maybe.
Yeah.
Every time we lived in a house, it burnt down. So
It had nothing to do with the fact that you lived in it and you were a pyromaniac.
We thought we were safer to live in a trailer park and risk tornadoes than all the fires.
On the next episode of Overruled, PJ sets fire to 2 of his houses and gets away with it.
Hey, you think that's bad, but every country I've lived in is approaching civil war, so
including this one.
Exactly.
You're bad luck, Abby. You just need to go somewhere else for a while till it cools down.
Yeah, sounds like it.
Yeah, but the civil war will break out there and I'll have to come back here.
Yeah,
that's how
true.
it works.
That's how it's
anyway,
true.
Please continue with the story.
All right, so the towel in the sink looks like somebody like wiped their hands off with it and just like threw it in the sink.
Right.
Okay, so let's do a little background on the victims. Linda was the wife of a high-profile banker, Frank Freshwaters, and she was a stay-at-home mom of son James. And she and Frank they met in college and were married in 1939. Where she shortly after they were married, she almost immediately became pregnant with their son James. During this time, Frank worked his way up the corporate ladder at the bank that he worked at, and he made a really good name for himself. The family was living better off than Linda had ever expected, and she would go on the wording of this newspaper article. She would go on prestigious or shopping trips to the big city, like overnight shopping trips to the big city, and the big cities mentioned were like Columbus and Pittsburgh, like really fancy.
I mean,
Okay.
Really fancy.
I mean,
Oh,
if you think
Io.
about it, though, back then Detroit was a nice city.
Yeah, true.
You know,
True.
Motown, and it was the nicest city in America in the 1940s.
I mean, could you imagine going to Pittsburgh on purpose?
no, not today. No,
Yeah,
What a different time.
I know.
or Cleveland or Columbus or whichever one you just mentioned. Yeah, if it exists.
Yeah,
Right.
If it exists.
they joined the prestigious Fair Lawn Country Club, which apparently is still in business today. They opened up in like the 1920s
Okay.
in Ohio, and they attended mass every Sunday at St. Sebastian's Catholic Church, and that's where they met the friends that were coming over for the play date.
The neighbors that found him
they were
or found her and Mystery Man.
Mystery
Yeah.
Man. We'll
Yeah.
get to who Mystery Man is in a minute. It's spicy. I'm telling you what. Like
Oh.
this would make this would be like a good a story that would happen today. Like it's very
Trigger warning: you might blush at the spiciness of the story.
I'm telling you what. It's not your normal 1947 spiciness. Is all I'm saying.
She showed an ankle.
yeah, exactly.
Let's keep it PG. It's a crime channel.
So they were woven in the community. They had church friends, they had country club friends, like they were well respected. He was making good money. He was, doing his thing at the bank. She was a stay-at-home mom, which they kind of made that sound normal, but when you think about it, I think in 1947 that was a normal thing. It would be kind of like
Weird if she was
today.
working.
Yeah, it would be
I mean,
weird
it
if she
was-
was
so-
working.
It was right after World War II, so I guess there were at this point there were more women in the workforce.
Yeah.
But it would still be like stay-at-home mom is still the default, I would think.
Yeah.
After the war, especially.
Today, I would think a stay-at-home mom would not be the default.
No, definitely not today.
Right.
It's
It would be
not.
like your husband is making enough money to where you can stay at home.
I get the
That's the
people
dream.
look at me and my wife like we're weird because she doesn't work, and we get
Yeah.
that like judgment from people all the time, like your wife doesn't work. Like, well,
That's-
she
I
raises
mean,
our children.
That's the
so I
dream.
don't-
Like,
yeah.
I'm like, who doesn't
Yeah.
want that?
Yeah.
Exactly. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, and I think we turned out pretty good. So,
Yeah.
I think that's the way to go. Honestly, if you can afford to do that, or if you can do that, definitely do that.
We did it. We couldn't afford to do it, but we did it.
Same.
Yeah. All right. So it's like a huge mystery who this guy is, and then so the police end up IDing this guy as a guy named Glenn Quinton, and he happens to be a high-profile golf player who would hang out at Fairlawn Country Club. Yes.
No.
So, well, poor Frank was off at work.
What's up with golfers and being pimps?
I don't know. I had an opportunity to go to the Masters this year that I turned down. Or I didn't turn down. I got the tickets and sold them, but still.
It sounds like
Whatever.
a better use though. of
Right.
those
Yeah.
tickets.
Yeah, they were, exactly. But I couldn't imagine going and spending an entire day watching people play golf, even if they're like, it's like the Super Bowl of golf events. Like, I just don't care about golf at all.
I feel like it would remind me of the military too much, where it's like you have to hurry up and wait, and the excitement is at the putt, but it takes like forever to get there. You know?
Yeah.
know.
I've seen golf courses. Yes, they're very pretty, and I'm sure the flowers are beautiful, but I'd rather go to the botanical
If
gardens
Happy
for
Gilmore
like
was
10
playing,
bucks.
I'd watch.
Yeah.
Exactly that. Okay, so Glenn Quinton, I'll tell you about him. He's a high profile golf player in Ohio, and after interviewing people at the Fairlawn Country Club, so the police are like, okay, this guy's a golfer. They go to the country club, start interviewing people, and like all of the wait staff and servers and stuff are like, oh yeah, Glenn and Linda used to spend all their time together every day. She would go to the country club after she would drop the kid off at school. What's the kid's name? James? Yeah. So she'd drop James off at school and be hanging out at the country club canoodling with, with this golf guy. So I guess he was like, one of those guys with the chiseled chin and like the abs and stuff, like one of those guys.
Sounds
So
like
not
it.
an not an Arnold Palmer then.
No, he was like all the ladies, all the housewives.
I don't
at
know if
the-
Arnold Palmer used to be attractive. I just always think of like fat golfers. I think of Arnold
I
Palmer.
think
Isn't he
he
kind of
probably
fat?
did. I bet Arnold Palmer was very attractive in 1947. This could have been him.
Could have been him. Yeah.
I thought Arnold
She got
Palmer
Kmart
was a-
Arnold Palmer instead.
Isn't that a drink?
Yeah,
It
a
is.
less good version of lemonade.
Well,
Right.
an Arnie Palmy is the good version of that drink.
Oh,
So we add vodka to it. But yeah, no, it's
Um,
named after the golfer.
I like Arnold
Well, yeah.
Palmer's.
I was joking.
Okay. I thought you were serious.
It has a picture of him on it.
right.
That's true.
Oh yeah, the Arizona version
Can't miss
does.
it.
Yeah, that's
I think
right.
I have
Can't
some of
miss
those
it.
in my fridge right now.
I guess I could.
You don't have Milos in your fridge and you live in Georgia?
Yeah, no, I don't have that. No. Okay, so she'd go to the country club, drop James off at school, go to the country club, spend all of her time with Glenn. And apparently all of her socialite friends would not talk, but all of like the wait staff and like the bus boys and like the what's the guy who carries your golf bag? Like all of the employees.
Caddy.
Caddy.
Yeah, all of the people that worked at the golf club are like, that's him. And Frank probably did it.
So it was an open secret.
Yeah,
Okay.
pretty much. Yeah. So the whole time I've been researching this, I'm like, okay, so where was James? Why isn't he dead? But apparently he was at his grandparents' house that week or that weekend for some reason. So I really had to dig deep to figure out where the heck James was because I'm like,
while the kids are away, mom will play.
I
think is
guess.
yeah.
I guess. But yeah. But why on earth would they have set up a play date if he was at his grandparents' house? That doesn't make sense either. So there's some stuff that's just like kind of weird.
It could also just be like bad reporting too.
That's true too.
You know?
Yeah. It was difficult to find. Like I actually paid for a couple of articles from, you know how like on the New York Times, is it? I think I don't know, one of the websites where it's like you have to pay $2 to read the rest of this. I'm like,
yeah,
fine, I'll read the rest of it. I'm definitely not signing up for a subscription for those newspapers.
Right.
Right.
Is this just one of those like women who are so useless that like even when they're a stay-at-home mom, they don't want to do anything at all?
It sounds like it,
Yeah.
doesn't it? Yeah.
Like the wino moms, you mean?
Yeah,
Mhm.
exactly.
I'm telling you what, I used to, in my younger years, I nannied for a family, like a very, very rich Atlanta family. They lived down by like the governor's mansion. And this
wow.
woman would hire me to come watch her kids while she was at home. And she would just go into her giant master bedroom and watch reruns of Grey's Anatomy on her iPad while I was there taking care of her 4 kids.
That's
What
that's
the heck?
depressing.
It was
Yeah.
That's like depressing to think that people are
insane.
like that.
Yeah, or she would go out shopping and then she'd like just come home with all of this stuff that nobody
Yeesh.
needed or asked for, or just like it was like several times a week. Yeah.
Yeah.
That makes me so sad for those kids.
Yeah.
Oh, well, I mean, we'll get into it not on air, but
Some other time.
this was
Yeah.
many years ago, and a couple of the young ladies are on Instagram now. That's all I'm saying.
Oof.
Yeah.
Good, really good kids, by the way. Love those kids. Okay, so this is one piece of evidence that they found in the home was a set of divorce papers that were signed by Linda, but not signed by Frank.
Yikes.
I'm just saying I get why he got put away. I'm not like
Right.
I trust that I trust you when you say you think he's innocent, but the evidence definitely points
The
to him
evidence
early.
does
Like
not
if a
look
cop
good.
coming in 1947 wants to close this case up,
Oh yeah,
that's an
in
easy
Akron,
wrap up.
Ohio.
Yeah, that's an
When-
easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is where Frank's story gets interesting because what they find out when they're investigating and interviewing Frank and all this stuff is they find out that he was not just your everyday banker.
Of course not.
So he was committing a little crime. I don't personally think it was murder. The state of Ohio disagrees with me. But he was working for like a crime syndicate that he apparently got recruited into just out of college. So he had been doing this the whole time, okay? Where he was laundering money for this like mob, these crime people, like this mob family.
That explains how he got so wealthy so fast out of college. Because, like, who does that? I mean, I know it was like the 1940s, but still.
But in the 1940s, we had just come out of war. People weren't
Right.
like, it wasn't like a booming economic time. I mean,
Yeah,
I'm not a
that's true.
historian. I'm a true crime channel, so maybe it was.
I
But
thought
it
it
seems like-
kind of was because like that's when the Great Depression, like the World War II, kind of ended the Great Depression in a way.
Yeah, but you get that rich being so young.
I have no idea.
to
I'm just saying. Yeah.
Send your kids to private Catholic school, to be
probably
part of
not.
a country club, to have
No,
your
not that
You know
rich.
what I
Yeah,
mean?
you're right.
In
You're right.
2 years,
I think you'd be well off. Like you'd be, decently well off as a
Yeah.
banker, but also it depends on the bank too.
He worked for it was J.P. Morgan, which is now
Of course.
Chase Bank.
Mhm.
But back then it was just called
It's always
Morgan.
JP Morgan.
Yeah.
Always.
Always.
Okay, so his connection was this guy named, I'm gonna have trouble with this name. It was Erasmus Blatch.
Erasmus.
I think it's Erasmus.
Erasmus Blatch. But he went by Elmo, which apparently is a real name that people have. I thought it was just like a Sesame Street character.
I think
so yeah.
it was a name before Sesame Street, and then parents were like, "I'm not doing that."
Yeah,
Yeah.
there's no way you're naming your kid.
Yeah,
Elmo
there's a
after
book
that.
called St. Elmo's Fire, right? So
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, I actually Googled this because when something makes my brain like, is that a real name? Actually, Elmo is short for Erasmus. That's a
that's
thing.
crazy.
That is a weird name.
Exactly. So like if you're Kathy, your real name's Kathleen, sort of like that.
Right. I mean, it's kind of like getting Dick from Richard. You know what I mean?
I always
it's
wondered
not
how they
instead of
did,
Rick.
like,
I don't know why
right.
it's not Rick.
Why is
And
it
with
not
Elmo,
Rick?
there's no L in Erasmus, so it's
Right.
weird. Yeah,
Yeah.
Thanks for covering for me, guys. I just
it's
had
all
a
good. Or
sneezing fit.
Jack. Isn't Jack short for like
It's
John?
for John, yeah.
Yeah.
It makes no
Yeah.
sense. It's not even shorter. It's the same.
It's the
Anyway,
same
go ahead.
length. It's just
Never
the
got it.
nickname
Never
for
understood that one.
So Erasmus, this guy was like really embedded with the crime syndicate. And
Yikes.
he discovered Frank when he was finishing up college. And at the time when Frank was finishing up college, he was working part-time at J.P. Morgan, which is how he got into, I wonder if it was like an internship or something. Maybe it was. I don't know.
Mhm.
I don't want to just mix stuff up, but when I first heard that he was working while he was in college, I was thinking like internship sort of situation. Blatch was also known as the mob's accountant, and he was also a hitman.
Whoa.
Double. Oh wow, that's a
2
weird.
jobs.
I guess you have to be a jack of all trades when you're in that sort of
Mhm.
business because it's
Yeah.
hard to keep people because of the high turnover rate.
Yeah, but he was I guess the point. Yeah, true. End up in like rivers and swamps and stuff. He was Frank's main contact. I think
Okay.
is where he comes in. So he's like the face. He's the guy that would go to Frank and be like, "Here's what we need. We need this money laundered, and we need to do it in this amount of time, or whatever." So you're gonna love this part where I hope Abby comes back for this part because
Yeah, I see it in the notes. I'm excited. Yeah.
So this is how Frank's started laundering the mob's money. He started opening up mattress stores all over the Midwest. And here's where it gets kind of crazy. Yeah, so these mattress stores
Of course, it's
actually
mattress
Of
stores.
course.
in 2015 mattress firm bought them out. And
Because
you
they
know
own
how
every mattress.
What the heck?
If people are not familiar, I did this video and it was very controversial about mattress stores and how there's in Chicago. And, well, we'll take a few examples, but in Chicago, there's one area of it that has 17 mattress stores in 1.5 square miles.
it's insane.
Like, there's a mattress store on every freaking corner.
No one needs that many mattresses.
And nobody's ever in them.
Right. And then like most of the I'm sorry, like some of the dumbest comments I got were like, well, what about hotels? I'm like, they don't buy from mattress, like they buy from like warehouses and
Yeah.
Wholesale.
not
Yeah.
going
They
to
don't buy
mattress
from
firm.
mattress firm.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, it's like insane because I'm thinking to myself, some people in the comments said they buy a mattress every year. I don't know what kind of money you guys
No.
have, but I don't do that. I don't buy mattresses that often. So
I'm trying to think, and like Dave and I have been married for almost 16 years, and
Yeah.
I think we got a mattress when we first got married, or when we first moved in together or whatever, and then we've replaced it one time only in 16 years.
I think I've had the same mattress for the last 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, Josh and I've been married for 8 years, and we got a new mattress when we got married, and it's
Yeah.
the same
Yeah,
one.
it's so good.
But here's the thing too, is like I also got a ton of comments from people who work at Mattress Firm, and they're like, something's shady here. Like we had never
See?
have business, right?
Yeah.
So when the employees are going like,
Yeah.
you know, I'm sorry, not to get off track, but if you
No,
ever
that's
want to cover Kmart, I've had this theory for like a decade that Kmart is mafia owned. And
Oh, it
then
has to
just,
be.
I've never looked into it. And then I looked into it recently, just like 5 minutes of Googling. And it was like, yeah, pretty much every CEO of Kmart has been under suspicion for like mafia ties. Kmart's were always closed, like, or sorry, always open and never had anything inside. So I think they're another one. How they buy Sears? You know what I mean?
This is
Yeah.
like a direct link to like
Right.
money laundering. Like I could follow a direct link to Mattress Firm with this. When I
Yeah.
looked up the Sleepy's company and like on their Wikipedia, it says, "Oh, by the way, Mattress Firm bought them in 2015." I'm like, "Oh, really?
that makes
That's
sense.
interesting."
That makes sense.
Yeah, exactly.
Too many mattress firms, not enough people buying mattresses. I think.
Right.
Yep. Oh,
It's mattress firms and nail salons, I guess.
yeah, car washes.
Yeah.
Or car washes, yeah.
Like in
Yeah,
Breaking
Katie,
Bad.
car washes.
I don't
Let's
know.
talk about car washes.
Okay, so the reason why we know all of this is because like Frank, when he like was arrested, he like spilled his guts about everything. He's like, "I'm sorry, I'm part of this crime family. I'm working for them and whatever. So he just like confessed to all of his actual crimes that I think he did with the money laundering, with the mattress stores and all that.
Better to go down for that than, I guess, murder of your wife.
Yeah, he was found in a park near his house, and when he was found like all beat up and bloody, so as if he got into a fight with somebody.
Oh, like
Right.
a fight with a lover?
Yeah.
Yikes. This is not looking good for him. I'm sorry,
It's
Katie.
really not. I know. We'll get there. He did so yes, he did the money laundering stuff for that like mob family. But after his son was born, he was working on trying to find a way to get out of that and like live a more wholesome life where he wasn't a criminal. But the mob like didn't want him to
They
leave.
just keep pulling me back in.
Now it sounds like John Wick.
Another movie reference Abby won't get.
Apparently a job you're not allowed to quit when you work for them.
I can't imagine why.
Because I'm the one who knocks. That's why.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So Blatch continued to give him more and more challenging tasks, like bigger amounts of money to launder in a shorter amount of time and stuff. And Frank kept meeting all of the demands or whatever because he's trying not to get killed, you know. And he noticed also what he was telling the cops in the I wish they had like police interrogation video from back then. Obviously,
That'd be pretty
they
cool.
don't,
Yeah,
but I
That
would
would have
love
been
to see
awesome.
this back and forth. I wonder if they have those accents like in the old movies, like in 12 Angry Men, like when they're arguing back and forth. I'm not sure. But he noticed his wife was becoming more and more distant. So he was worried if he stopped making all of this money, like she would leave him. So he's like, he wanted to get out, but he couldn't see a clear path to do that and keep his relationship. Like his wife, like Abby was saying, is one of these wives that just want to spend all her rich husband's money and sit around and do nothing.
yeah.
And he really did love his wife. So, all right. So he worked late nights setting up these like shell corporations and mattress firms or mattress sleepies or whatever they were called. Yeah. And more distance kept growing between him and Linda, which it kind of explains the divorce papers too. And he was kind of confused by this because he thought he was doing everything right. He was trying to be the best dad and best husband, like carrying the weight of the world on his shoulders. And here's the part where she would go for long weekend trips with her girlfriends to the big city of Cleveland and sometimes Pittsburgh. That was the exact wording in the newspaper. The
weird.
draw of the big city took her away.
Yeah, anybody's been to Cleveland knows that draw.
Yeah. So he was thinking he took a day off work and he went to surprise her at the country club. So he left work at like noon at lunchtime on the day of this murder, and he shows up at the country club where she hangs out during the day, and he knows this. He thinks she's playing like bridge with her girlfriends, and she's over there canoodling with this Glenn Quinton guy,
Oh,
like
no.
eating lunch and like smooching and stuff. I'm not sure what canoodling means.
It means whatever you want it to mean. Can we bring back good words like canoodling?
Canoodling is
You know
a
what I
pretty
mean?
good, pretty good word.
Call things the bee's knees again.
Yes, I like it.
It's a lot better than oh gosh, I can't even
A
think
lot
of
better
it.
than bussin'.
Bussin', that's what I was trying to think of.
I don't even know what bussin' means.
I don't
somebody
want to
told me
know
it-
what it means.
it
And my
wasn't
students have
good.
used that word before. I think it means cool. So
Yeah.
instead of saying cool, it means it's
Like in
bussin',
context, I get it, but I'm like, I'm old enough to the point where I'm like, I don't want to know or use
Right.
that word.
Yeah.
But you can have
Better
it.
when they were calling things bread. I didn't get that.
Yeah.
I don't think I've ever even heard that one.
The thing
Well, it was our generation that normalized YOLO, so I can't make fun of them too much.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
it's an
Pete.
acronym that means something.
That's true. That's true. I still hated it, but yeah, go ahead.
YOLO.
It's like, I'm going to do something that's, going to ruin my life. YOLO. It's like, no, that's not, that's the opposite of what that should mean.
You know what's funny?
Or I'm
is
going to do something like basic. YOLO.
I've heard rumors complaining about like shortening words and things like that on Twitter, like trying to read Twitter.
I
and-
made this point recently. I think what you're going to say.
Yeah, and they used to. That's probably where I saw
Yeah.
it, and I just can't remember where I saw it. So you should make the point then.
Oh, no, it's just like that. If you read 1920s newspapers, it looks like Twitter today.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everything was acronyms. Everything was shortened down because they had to pay by the letter for newspaper print.
And
So like
telegrams. And,
it's it's exactly the same thing.
yeah, that's exactly probably where I saw that. See, I pay attention to y'all's Twitter.
You do watch our show. Yeah.
Okay, so he goes home. So he sees them from a distance and just leaves. He's not even confronting them at the country club. And he goes home and starts calling all of her friends. Turns out she never went on any of these weekend trips to this big city with her friends. She was going and hanging out with Glenn
Yikes.
the whole time. Yeah. I know it's looking bad for Frank.
It's
I
really-
promise. I promise Frank's a good guy. He's just a mob launderer guy. Like, think of him as like the Walter White of the 1947 or whatever.
And he was a good guy by the end of the show.
I mean, was he? I'm not sure.
Not at all.
Yeah,
He didn't kill his wife, though.
he did not. Or
Walter
his,
White didn't.
or his
Yeah.
son.
Cared about his family. That's the one thing
Yes.
you could say about it.
He did care about his family. Well, and Frank obviously cared about his family too.
Yeah.
So when he got home, he confronted Linda, or when she got home, he confronted her about it. And she's like, look, here's the divorce papers. I'm going to sign them right now. Sign them. And he just like pieces out. He's like, later. Apparently she calls Glenn and he comes over at this point. So
That's smart.
I know. I
Lots of
know.
people, unfortunately. That's how that
Yeah, people are
goes
dumb.
too often.
People are real dumb.
Mhm.
I guess if she
Um,
was already doing this dumb thing, it shouldn't surprise me, but still.
Yeah.
Right, that everyone knew about.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yep. So Frank basically blamed the mob for his marriage breaking up. He's convinced that if he was able to be a stay-at-home or have more time at home with his kids and his wife and not working all these nights setting up mattress stores.
So he says.
Yeah, maybe he was canoodling. No, I don't think he was. It seemed like, from what I read, once he was caught or once he was arrested in the park or whatever, he like just spilled his guts. Like anything that I jaywalked when I was 13, and like just everything he just told the police.
Just like, look, I'm guilty of lots of stuff, but not that.
not
the
this.
Meatloaf song.
Yeah,
I would
exactly.
do anything for love, but I wouldn't do that.
Exactly. Yeah. So Frank calls up Blatch and tells him, like, look, I'm not working for you anymore. It stops now. I'm not even finishing up the projects that I'm doing now. I'll give you all the papers, like all of the, to get somebody else to do it. I'm out. So he's walking around in this park trying to I guess this is a thing people did in 1947, but he's like gathering his thoughts, walking around a park. And
Yeah, nobody does that anymore. They do that on Twitter, just like
Yeah.
vent their feelings.
Yeah.
They don't even gather their thoughts; they just spit them out.
He
Right.
decided to go to the park and touch grass. And
Hashtag real grass.
Yeah.
yeah. And here's somebody like kind of following him, just like kind of closely. And the next thing he knows, he's waking up like he like blacks out for a time being, and he's dragged from the path he was on into like this little wooded area, and he wakes up. The cops find him there, and he comes to, and this is when he finds out that his wife and her lover are dead. So he didn't even know that he had gone back to the house, according to Frank.
So his alibi is he got tuned up by the mob.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. But keep in mind, we know this Elmo guy was also a hitman. So
But then why wouldn't they have just killed him?
Well, maybe he was good at his job and they just wanted to like scare him back into it.
like, oh, you want to spend time with your wife? Well, if she's not around, then you can just open up mattress stores for us. Something like that. Not sure. I don't claim to know why the mob does the things the mob does.
So are you saying you think that it's the mob that took out the wife?
I think so.
Like it was coordinated at the same time kind of thing?
Yeah.
But this is all just based on his testimony, like.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, there's some evidence too. We'll go over it.
Okay.
When we get to the trial part, we'll go over the.
Okay.
So the cops tested the bloody rag that was in the sink, and it was positive for Frank's blood.
Was it or his blood type? Because they didn't have DNA back
Yeah,
then.
not his blood. Yeah, it was. It says blood type right there. I just didn't read the whole sentence.
No, I wanted to make sure because.
Yeah. Oh, well, that's an interesting thing. This is the very first case in Ohio where they use blood typing.
Oh, wow.
In actual court, like as a.
I think, yeah, it's just funny because I don't think a lot of people realize just how recent DNA testing is.
Oh, yeah. One of the notes I made when I was making the notes is that because it was the very first blood typing case used in Ohio's court system, when reading about it, it seemed to me much like the O.J. Simpson trial, where they had to explain the science to the jury of what DNA testing was and how it worked.
Too bad Frank couldn't just put gloves on top, like shrunken gloves on top of his already gloves,
right.
He must have quit. Exactly.
I was wondering because, like, you said there was this rag in the sink, like someone had wiped their hands off with it. Like, who would think to do that? It's so obvious you're leaving your DNA behind, but when you think about it,
that wasn't a thing.
Here's what got me is if these guys were the wife and the dude, the golfer guy, were shot, why would you need to wipe blood off your hands anyway?
Okay.
You see what I'm saying? Why was there even blood on a rag in the sink at all? Like it doesn't track. Like that's like you don't really get blood. I guess you'd
Unless did he maybe bust a knuckle punching the dude?
Yeah, because it was his blood. So maybe that is it. That makes more sense.
Okay.
Yeah, because the lover dude was all beat up too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Hold on. Ava wants to say hi, guys.
Ava!
Look at how big she's getting.
So big.
Ooh, come over here, Ava.
That's the real draw of watching. So if you guys are listening to this on iTunes or whatever later, this is why you got to come over to like Rumble and watch the show. Yeah. So you get to see Ava.
That's right. And that's why you need to leave some Rumble rants so Ava can get treats.
Yes. And Xena. Let's not.
And Xena.
Yeah. Let's not just,
we just don't cast Xena aside.
Yeah.
That's right. Xena's just over there taking a nap. She
is. Yeah, she is. Okay, so the blood type matches Frank's blood that's in the sink. O.J. Simpson trial, science explained by the prosecution. Okay, so the prosecutor argues that it was a crime of passion because each victim was shot 4 times, which means that Frank would have had to reload his revolver. And in the trial, in the closing statements from the trial transcript, attorney Robert E. Frere says Mr. Freshwaters drew his revolver on his wife and her lover and shot them both 3 times. Then he stopped and reloaded his weapon and shot them both again. So
there, like, I want to be fair here because when I first read that part, I'm thinking that does sound like someone who's mad enough at a lover to reload. But I want to play devil's advocate here a little bit because I'm thinking to myself, if you're that angry, you're reloading and unloading all of them again.
you
I
would
would think 12 shots, not 8.
Yeah.
But if it is a mafia connection,
there might have been two.
now I'm seeing like the double tap. You know, which like nowadays that's what they call it, the Colombian, whatever. 2 shots to the chest, 1 to the head. But I'm thinking 3 each and then 1 to the head sounds kind of mafia.
Possibly. Well, the fact that here's another thing that got me because I look at a lot of criminal psychology and I would have thought that there would have been more shots to one than the other. Like he was more mad at one of them than the other. So
generally it would be the wife, I think, actually.
Right. You would think so. Yeah. But I could see him thinking, well, if this guy never came into our lives, we would be fine, and being more mad at him. But the fact that it was so evenly split does kind of
because when I first read that thought about reloading, I'm thinking this really points at a husband who's mad. But now I'm thinking about it going like, that's really calculated though.
Right.
Yeah.
I could see the double unloading of the gun too. It's weird that it's only
double unloading
shots.
would make me think it's the husband.
Right. Because you're just in a blind rage.
Yeah. Well, this is the reason why he ended up getting like 1st-degree murder instead of 2nd-degree, which would be like a spur of the
crime of passion thing.
Yeah, exactly.
Because of the reloading and the headshot.
The reloading and and they couldn't even prove which shot was the last shot, but the way this guy said in closing arguments is how they ended up getting the 1st-degree intentional.
Well, it would make the most sense too if the target's not moving anymore because you put 3 bullets in it. Then it'd be a lot easier to get that headshot. I mean, that's the thing. Like when people talk about movies and they're like, "Why don't they just shoot him?" Like that's the reason they teach you in the military and stuff to aim center mass. The head moves so easy; it's a smaller target. You know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
exactly.
even at close range, like it's not as easy as it sounds.
True. Very true. Okay. So
Noted.
PJ.
I never worked for the mafia.
Says the conspiracy theorist.
So the trial and there's automatic appeals and stuff. So it gets drawn out for about 2 years, and he ends up getting found guilty and sentenced to double life sentence in the Ohio State Reformatory. And I actually pulled up a picture of the Ohio State Reformatory because it looks like a pretty cool building to me.
Oh yeah.
It looks like a castle, doesn't it?
It does look like a castle.
Does look like a castle. This looks too nice to be
looks like a manor.
prison.
It looks like something you'd call a manor.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't know what a manor is and what the difference between that and a mansion is, but I'd call this a manor.
We just covered this in our Ohio episode because it's like considered the most haunted place in America or in the world.
Oh wow.
Really?
Yeah, it's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
That is really nuts, actually.
Yeah. It used to be a mental institution, right?
Oh yeah.
No, it was just a reformatory penitentiary.
Just okay.
But it burned and killed like.
I did read that.
Yeah.
When I was doing research, I came across that story. I'm like, oh, this is something interesting. And I get distracted a lot when I'm doing research. And I went down that rabbit hole a little bit. Yeah.
Yep.
Bunch of people died there. Yep.
Yeah.
It's funny that wasn't even planned this way because you were planning this episode before we were planning our Ohio episode, and there's that crossover.
Crazy.
You guys, I do research for like a month. I start with just the idea about a month ahead of time, and then the last 2 weeks is like real intense investigation, I guess.
Look, if you guys missed it, me and Katie just did an episode about the song "Jeremy" by Pearl Jam. It's on her RSS feed, so if you're listening to this later, you can hear it, as a bonus episode, or you can look at it on Hawkhound Media on YouTube or Rumble. But like, Katie researched the weather the day this thing happened in 1990. So like,
because Eddie Vedder's a liar. He's a liar. It was not 64 degrees and cloudy on that day, and
it's 48 degrees and sunny.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. I love your level of detail, though. I really do.
Well, some stuff just doesn't make sense. I'm like, well, it was January. Was it really 64 degrees? Anyway, so the evidence that really put Frank away was this DNA evidence. But remember those footprints in the hallway that were a size, I forget what's that. They were like 11 and a half, big feet.
Yeah.
Frank, this is why I think that he is not guilty of this murder because his feet were size 9.5.
Oh.
They weren't
Oh,
even
that is
close.
very different.
Very different. So did he have like somebody with him that helped him do that? Like, it doesn't make any sense.
You'd have to
How-
really plan it out to wear the different size shoes, because I've heard of crimes where people do it, but what they usually do is they try to cram their foot into a much smaller shoe,
Right.
because then the jury's less likely to believe, like, because you could put on a bigger shoe.
By the way, this is
Walk
not a
around
how
in
to
it.
get away with crime.
No,
channel.
I'm just thinking of other crimes I've heard of where people
PJ.
like, I've heard of ones where someone crams their foot into a size 7
Oh.
to be like, there's no way it could be me, because
Right.
the shoe prints are so tiny. But they usually don't do it the clown shoe way, because then anybody could do that. I don't know. It's just a thought.
This beer exploded.
But I don't think, like, if it was a
Poor
crime of
Katie,
passion,
her
right?
Right.
Even one cold enough to like reload and double tap,
right.
you wouldn't think to put on bigger shoes.
Right.
You have got to be kidding me. How are all of these beers exploding?
I don't know what you
Yeah.
do to them.
You're supposed to tap the top. That's what keeps them from
We're
exploding.
sitting here for like an hour.
Yeah,
We've been
see,
locked
like
for an
that.
hour.
Tap the
I'm
top.
sitting here.
That's crazy.
Or what you do is you stab the bottom of the can
And
then
then
you
just
open.
drink
You can.
This isn't a frat party, PJ.
Oh,
Gosh.
well, you know.
What you were talking about with the shoe prints reminds me of a case that I might cover. The Lululemon murders, where this, I don't want to spoil it, but this person, the killer was a woman and ended up putting on men's like size 11
I was going to
shoes
say,
or
I thought
something.
I'd heard something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah.
It's a really interesting story. That's for another day. Let's get back to Frank.
This
So
is crazy now.
Frank wears size 9.5, and there's blood like coming from the bedroom out into the hallway of size 11.5 shoes. So 2 full sizes bigger than
That's
his
bigger.
feet. So
Yeah.
that's why I think like, and why would you, if he found out that day that his wife was cheating on him,
That's what I'm
You wouldn't
saying. You
think-
wouldn't plan that
where's
out
he
that
even
well,
gonna
would
get
you?
those
Right.
shoes?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Where, you know,
And wouldn't there be like someone that saw him buying shoes, or I don't
well,
know?
and it wasn't that Glenn guy's shoe size either. So it's not
Okay,
like
I was gonna ask
Glenn was
that.
stumbling around or something like that. It
Okay.
wasn't, yeah, it didn't match anybody at the scene.
Okay.
The only thing I can think of is like back then, police forensics were not as good as they are today. And if
Mhm.
some cop like trampled through the crime scene for some reason, but the neighbor said he noticed the footprints before the
Right.
cops even got there. So
Right. Yeah. Also, depending on how much later they showed up, it probably would be a little bit dried into the carpet anyway. So,
Right.
yeah,
You'd
you
be
would
able
think.
But
to
yeah,
tell
I
the
don't know, yeah.
difference.
Next morning because they were going on a plane.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
The
Right.
next day, yeah. But I think cops back then didn't even pay attention to stuff like that. I really like forensics has really come a long way.
The old shoe switch. Maxwell Smart.
Yeah. Okay, so it says here. Okay, so on the morning of March 12th, 1975, 28 years after Frank was first locked up for his crimes, he basically disappeared from prison. Just gone, poof, gone. Nobody
heck?
knows where he went. He was in a locked cell and then he's gone. He tunneled out of the prison. Yeah. 28 years he tunneled out of this prison,
28
And-
years.
just disappeared into the night. Through it kind of reminded me when I saw how they investigate or whatever. It sounded a lot like the Alcatraz escape. Those
Oh,
three
yeah.
guys
Oh.
where they get out of their cell and then go like through like duct work and stuff like that to get out. In Frank's case, it was sewer pipes instead of duct pipes, which I think the Alcatraz guys maybe a little bit better because the duct work is probably cleaner.
Huh.
Yeah. Yikes.
I've seen people clean our duct work and there's a lot of stuff that comes out of there, but it's like dust, not poop.
Right.
Not poop.
Yeah. Exactly. So he was the only known convict to escape the Ohio State Reformatory, probably because it was like a castle. And in early 2015, the Marshal Service set up a cold case unit in Northern Ohio, reopening the active search for Freshwaters. And they determined that he may have been living in Mexico, of all places. I guess a lot of people back then
Oh, yeah. Escape to Mexico.
Escape to Mexico, exactly.
And it makes sense, I think. Like, there's
Sure.
not harder to trace somebody.
Yeah. Well, and I think there wasn't as strict border crossing and stuff back then.
Well, it's not now.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Kidding. Well, I
It
shouldn't
was
say
probably
that.
more strict back
There
then than it
is-
is now.
Well, no, like which direction though? Because now border crossing into Mexico is like life sentence stuff.
Yeah.
The other
Right.
way is like free, healthcare
Yeah.
stuff. So
True. So that he was in a little town on the Pacific coast of Mexico called Zihuatanejo. I think you
Mm.
pronounce it that way.
So Guantanamo.
Yeah. And the U.S. Marshal Service fined him on May 4th, 2015, approach him and show him a picture of himself and ask him, hey, have you seen this guy? And he gives the most, I mean, I don't know, it's kind of a wholesome answer. And he says to him in quotations, I haven't seen him in a long time, because it's a picture of him from 1959.
Oh.
Wow.
Yeah. So he confessed to, without incident. They extradite him back to the United States, to Ohio. And it actually has kind of a happy ending, because I really don't think that he did it.
Mhm.
So he's
Mhm.
extradited back to Ohio. He serves about a year in prison because, he was convicted of murder. And on February 25th, 2016, the parole board decided to grant him parole. And for his parole hearing, over 2,000 people from half a dozen states and 2 countries wrote to the parole board to say what a nice guy he was, and he never did any wrong. So after he escaped from prison, he was like a model citizen, never did anything wrong again.
It sounds like at that point they doubted the story too. Then
Yeah,
Right.
he was released from prison in June 2016.
That's crazy.
So I know it's kind of a crazy story, but yeah, he's the longest escaped prisoner. Not only was he the first case that they used blood typing evidence for in Ohio, but he's the longest escaped prisoner that was recaptured, and he's a free man today. And
Wow.
the inmates used to call the Ohio State Reformatory Shawshank Redemption, because that's
What?
the story we just told you. April
I
Fools!
was waiting for someone in chat, like
I know, right?
dropping little like hints. Like I just rewatched the movie last night, like the 3 shots and reloading.
Elmo Blatch.
Right.
Say Watanaho, guys. Say
know.
Watanaho. Come
I
on.
know.
Dude, I'm a little proud of us. We held it together pretty well.
It was
For an
difficult.
hour. We had this
like-
planned for like 2 months.
Yeah. Since like Christmas. Since Christmas.
Oh yeah, longer than that.
Yeah.
Like 4 months. We've been like, let's do an episode where we tell the story of Shawshank Redemption with names changed, and then
Yeah.
see if
Well, I didn't even change any of the names except for Andy's, because I'm like, Andy
Right.
Dufresne, like they'll know. I mean,
yeah, because
Right.
everybody knows
But the
that
wife
name.
is still Linda. The
the
lover is
golf
still Gwen.
pro, Elmo Blatch. Come on.
Right.
So did anybody think that we were tricking you in the chat? Let us know, seriously, in the chat.
Let us know
If
at
I
what
was
point you
caught
caught
on.
on.
I
That
want
was
to know.
fun.
I haven't looked at the chat this whole time because I was so like intensely trying not to like.
I was waiting for somebody to be like, all right, look, you always stream on Sundays. It's Saturday, April 1st. What's going
Yeah, what's
going on here?
I set it up last week when I was streaming. I'm like, oh, by the way, I'm busy next Sunday. So I think I said it 2 weeks in a row. Like, oh, in a couple of weeks, I'm going to have to stream on Saturday, guys.
Oh my goodness. This
You
was
were
really
hoping
easy for
for-
me because I've never seen the movie.
Yeah, I was sitting here like, wow, this is a really interesting story.
Nobody was hoping for a better punchline. That was a pretty good punchline. It was literally
That was
the
pretty good.
storyline of Shawshank Redemption. Tell you what, Smith W. You come up with something better. Just message me or any of us if you on any social medias. Come up with something for next year. Just let us know, and we'll see if your idea is better.
There we go.
Perfect.
So you guys
We'll
had
do Inception next year. We'll have to sell that these dudes broke into other people's dreams as a crime story.
yeah.
Well, he's a crazy guy on meth who's claiming he broke into other people's dreams.
Yeah.
There you go.
I don't think he realized it was April Fool's. Or he's saying April Fool's to the punchline thing.
Oh,
Okay, So you said a couple pieces of this were true.
Yeah,
Which parts
actually,
were
a
true?
lot. The whole last paragraph I read about Frank Freshwaters was a real guy that escaped from the Ohio State Reformatory, and that whole last paragraph that I read about him, about the Ohio Department of Corrections starting a group in 2015 to try to track him down, and 2,000 people, not 2 countries, but from several states. He apparently had lived all over the country, and 2,000 people wrote letters to the parole board to get this guy out. So the dates at the end were the same.
That's the part I didn't believe. I was like,
That's
I'm
hilarious.
sitting here like, I'm like, all right, Katie, I don't
You're
find this
going.
part believable that he was, refound and then they let him out on parole.
They
That
did.
part
Yeah.
really happened?
That part really happened. Yeah.
Wow.
Yep.
Smith says he was on to us at the sewer. Yeah, that was the hardest part to get through
Right.
because I wanted,
I
like,
almost
normally
said
I would have like focused on that and made a bunch of jokes about it. And I was like, if I'm quiet, maybe nobody will like super think about how that's
It was
Shawshank
very
Redemption.
hard for me to not say he crawled through
5 football fields,
500 yards of shit and came out clean on the other side. It was so hard not to say that.
I was onto you at the sewer. Were you?
That was really towards the end. So we had you for like a good 45 minutes.
Yeah, solid.
There was a part in the stream when you were like, oh, I do a lot of research. I don't want to make any of this up. And I just like had to bite the inside of my lip. I was like, no.
And you know what I almost said that I stopped myself from saying was something about, yeah, it's a really good story. It could be a movie.
Right? I
You
almost
should
said
have
it
said
sounds
that.
like
You
a
should have said
book.
that.
For 1947 or whatever.
Stephen King should have wrote this.
Yeah, Stephen King should have wrote
For
that.
1947, it gets a little spicy. It's a good story. But I did want to, I know everybody but Abby has watched the movie recently. And I wanted to talk about one of the things that I noticed in the movie. If you guys have a couple more minutes anyway.
Oh yeah, for sure.
For an hour. But one of the things that really stood out to me in the movie is the fact that the warden really throughout the whole movie professes to be a Christian, but obviously is not. He's an evil man. And I just wanted to get your guys' kind of take on that. I thought that was a very interesting
I think it comes from Stephen King, who hates Christianity, and he wanted to have a character in his book who was the most Christian, be the most evil person in his book.
He does that in a lot of his.
He does it in
books.
all of his books.
Yep.
It's always the evil Christians in Stephen King's books, and it's just from him.
Yeah,
I think.
I mean, it's two things, right? I do think that Stephen is hateful and awful, but I think that there is a type of awful person that hides in the church.
Yes,
and uses
it's not even that he's telling it's not even that he's telling a fake story. That is a real thing that happens all the time. I just think from him it comes particularly from a place of because normally you'd balance it out with like not all people are like this. There's a type that wants to hide in the church. Satan hides within the church. True. But Stephen King only has Christian characters who are awful. And that's where it comes. That's where to me it's a little bit more.
Yeah, I just like there was just so many mentions of it throughout the movie. I watched it again last night, which is why I couldn't watch your guys' whole gaming stream that you did. I gotta watch this movie again. But yeah, the fact that his wife is part of this Christian or this group at church where she's doing cross-point Bible verses, that he's hiding literally the crimes that he's committing on the wall behind. I just thought that was an interesting theme, to like a lesser of the themes of the movie, but it's still an interesting one. So I'm glad you guys did this with me.
That was
Thanks
fun.
for having us. It was super fun.
And I also got to rewatch Shawshank Redemption last night, and I forgot how good that movie is.
Such a good movie, isn't it?
Yeah, it's been so long since
Abby
I've seen
needs
it.
to watch it.
Like, even though it's Stephen King, it's still like Stephen King had a period where he wasn't writing these crazy like aliens or dead people rising. Like,
as much as I don't like most of Stephen King's work, he has a couple of real gems.
Oh yeah.
Misery is so good.
Yeah, Misery is another one where it's something that could really happen.
And I hate to say
That's
this,
why I don't
think
like it.
I think the movie's all. I'm the opposite of everybody on this. I think the movie is trash, but I think the book is good. Would be The Shining.
Oh,
I think the movie's terrible.
Yeah,
it's just the cinematography is so good in the movie. I think it's like I think people need to separate it out.
And what's
the
his
movie
name
sucks, but the
does a good
cinematography is
job
great.
as the bad guy. The main.
Yeah. Jack Nicholson's great,
Mhm.
but like, the story in the book is so much better than the story in the movie.
It's changed for the movie, and that's I think what I liked about Shawshank. I was expecting the same thing to happen with Shawshank, so I had never read the story of Shawshank before I started preparing for this, and I read it, which means I listened to it because you all know I can't read. But it really goes with the movie. Like there's even some lines in the book that I remembered from the movie, like the knight drew out like a blade is actually words from the story.
Oh, wow.
I feel like number 2 got done dirty in college. I took a literature class in college, and all the books we read were Stephen King books.
Oh,
And
Oh,
she went to like
That
a
sounds
real
awful.
she went to a real college too. I think
What-
she went to
what was
University
the
of Chicago.
class? Was it a horror book class?
Or like a fiction
But
writing
even if
class.
it was just
Even
a horror
so,
class,
it's not-
like you
he's
can't
not the
throw a little
greatest
Dean
horror
Koontz in
writer
there or
either.
something?
He's just the
Yeah.
most famous one.
I will say for Stephen King, he's very good at writing human nature.
Yes.
Yeah. That's
Very
what I
good.
like about this story too. It really digs deep into the fact that Brooks was institutionalized and he put a word for that. I'm not sure if somebody had done that before, but it's the first time that I heard it, to where you can't get along on the outside once you're institutionalized. And spoiler, if anybody hasn't seen Abby, spoiler, Brooks ends up killing himself because he gets let out of prison and he's like doesn't know what to do with himself.
Oh,
That's really
So
sad.
every time I've watched the movie several times, every single time that happens, I cry at that scene.
That part's
Like,
really hard.
it's
Yeah.
really hurt. Yeah,
Because he was in there from like 20 till 80 and he just had no idea how to live outside.
but it's needed so
Yeah.
that way you realize why Andy
Had to
doesn't
get out.
ever let
Right.
go of hope. Like
Yeah.
there's a whole back and forth about Red and Andy, and Red's like hope's useless. You can't have hope in here because it'll make you crazy. And Andy's like, if you don't have hope, you don't have anything. So.
Mhm.
And you wouldn't feel that dialogue between them so deeply if that didn't happen with Brooks, you know.
Yeah.
If
It is
each-
definitely one of Stephen King's better stories, I think, for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah, exactly. So I guess we're gonna wrap this up. Thank you all for coming. I'm glad we were able to do this. We've been planning it for so long, guys, like a really long time.
Yeah.
So I think right around Christmas or maybe New Year's, I had this idea, and all 3 of them are like, "We're in. We want to do this with you." So I'm so glad you were able to.
It was so fun.
Shout out to you, Jess, too, because I know you did a lot of the research and help
Oh, yeah.
writing and shaping the story, too.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And
I've had a little extra free time this week, so it was nice to have something to do.
I want
Thanks
to give a shout out to number 2 as well, because she helped me with the idea forming of this as
Oh,
well.
nice.
Nice.
So,
Thank you, number 2.
yeah, exactly. So she's
Sure.
one of my best friends. So Jess definitely for sure. Like I just found myself so busy the last couple of weeks that I did all the research, and then I read the book, I watched the movie, and I'm like, I don't have any time to write. And Jess is like, oh, I have jury duty. I can write all
Right.
day. Yeah.
That's why it was just H.P. Lovecraft and Stephen King, because it was an American horror class.
Mm,
Oh,
that
that
makes
makes
Yeah.
more sense.
I'm not saying the selections were good. I'm just it starts to explain it a little
It
bit.
explains. I think that
Right.
you're missing a couple of really good American horror
Yeah.
writers, but
Oh,
yeah,
for sure.
Edgar Allan
For sure.
Poe.
yeah.
Was he
that
American?
would be the one
Yeah,
I
he
would
was-
first think of. But yeah,
Yeah, he was American, right?
yeah, he
He
was.
died in like Pittsburgh, I think. Speaking
He
of,
lived in Louisiana for a while. And,
I think he was
yeah.
both. He was a British person who extradited to the United States.
Maybe he
I could
was.
be wrong.
Maybe
I
he
could
was.
be
I don't
he was an
remember.
American
Completely
writer
wrong.
poet.
He wrote all. No, he grew up in America. Like
Okay.
99% sure on that.
He was born in Boston,
Okay.
so
if
that
you
would,
believe Wikipedia.
I mean, you have to. Yeah.
For that, I think you can.
Yeah.
I've told you guys before, I do use Wikipedia, but what I use it for, man, I get an overview of whatever I'm researching.
I think we
and
all do.
they have all
Wikipedia is
the
still
links.
good to like link you to better sources.
Yeah,
If you're just
I
reading
use it-
Wikipedia, you're doing it wrong. But like,
No,
it's
I
not a
read,
bad
like-
starting place.
I read the
Yeah.
first paragraph and then I scroll down to the links and
Yeah.
then I
Mhm.
read all the links.
Yeah,
That's right.
the way to do it.
Yeah, exactly. So PJ and Abby from Conspiracy Pilled, if you are not subscribed to Conspiracy Pilled, why not? Go over to Rumble, hit that little button. I don't know what you're doing if you're not. And all of the other places you stream. I want to say it's like
Well, I would just
18,
recommend
19 different places you stream to.
I would just recommend everybody goes to hawkhoundmedia.com and just clicks through the links, follows people. You get good content that way on any platform you're on. So.
Exactly.
There we
And if you're, something I almost totally forgot today. If you're looking to get some good coffee, why don't you head on over to northarrowcoffee.co, and there's a hold on. Oh yeah, there it is. There it is. I have I'm just very excited about it. Very excited. So Hawkhound,
She had her coffee this morning.
yeah, use Hawkhound, use code Hawkhound for 10% off. 15% of all sales goes to pro-life charity. It's the whole amount of your sale, by the way. It's not just the profits, which is great. We love pro-life charities around here. Again, that's discount code Hawkhound for 10% off at northarrowcoffee.co. She's very excited. Thanks for joining us. Definitely subscribe to I totally lost my train of thought because I forgot the coffee plug. But Jess, what do you have coming up for us?
So on Tuesday, Abby's going to be joining me for C.S. Lewis's The Great Divorce. We're going to talk about where #RealGrass comes from. And this is probably my favorite book by C.S. Lewis. So I'm really excied.
That
to
is
talk
my
about it with
favorite
you.
C.S. Lewis book as well.
It is
I
so
didn't
good.
know it came
One of
from
the good
somewhere. I
ones.
thought it came from Twitter.
Well, we
I don't
kind
think
of
he used the
derived
hashtag.
it from. Yeah, it
I don't
doesn't
think
come with
C.S.
the
Lewis
hashtag.
hashtagged it. Yeah.
He said, what was the quote? Reality is harsh
Right.
to the feet of ghosts or shadows.
Let me pull it
Feet of
up.
shadows.
That's a good book, though.
It is a really good book. Grass is sharp and hard. All of this is a contrast to people coming from Earth and who are ghostly and trapped there. Because the grass is hard, the flowers are hard, the rain and the water are hard because they're ghosts. They don't have any reality in them. And we'll talk about all of that.
Sounds like NPC behavior to
I'm
me.
looking forward
Yeah.
to it.
Might be.
Definitely looking forward to it. Do you Abby and PJ, do you have any episodes you're coming up that you want to talk about?
I don't
Yeah.
think we know what we're doing next. Wait.
I do. I actually do know what we're doing on Wednesday. So if you guys are interested in U.S. and Chinese spy operations on their own citizens, we're going to be talking about stuff like that. We're going to be asking questions like, is China launching a psychological and chemical warfare against
Yes.
America and has been going on for
Yeah.
decades?
Yeah.
And is America doing the same to its own citizens? And what's the difference? So yes to
Absolutely.
all those
It's gonna be
things,
good.
right? So we're going to be talking
Right.
about a lot of that, but it goes into a lot of really interesting conspiracy rabbit holes, and I'm excited to talk about it.
So you're going to talk about atrazine, right?
Yeah, right. Turning the freaking frogs game. I'm telling you.
Fucking frogs.
Well, we're going to wrap this up. I hope you all had a great April 1st and are having a great weekend. And we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye.
Bye.
First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. First Florida man, Hernando de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Won't you so loco? Show off your photos, throw out your Twinkies, throw up your ho-hos, tuck in them pinkies. Them shits a no-no. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Brought to my attention by the man with the mojo. My 8th subscriber, I'm a fat go-so. Jump in them sinkies and dump them mimosos. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Looking for new drills, needed a new track of land. I used to dig The Simpsons, man. Bumping Biggie, Pac, Smash Mouth, and Simple Plan. No scrubs for the grease in my pimples, damn. From the south streets of southeast Michigan, hitting shuffle till I settled on a different jam. And when a dime won't do, a better nickel can. And let me tell you when I used to dig them Simpsons, man. A funny thing about time, you can't get it back. A tight grip, but it rips the jacket. Slight lisp with a mix of traffic. You see about me, like Mr. Glass, always wished I was a whiz at graphics. Take me back to the past where the hits were massive. You can hear Gladys Knight and the pips on plastic. Misfit molasses. Delete my contacts just so I can stick to glasses. Feel that skipped out so I miss the classics. Aristotle of the bottle, Seneca of the sinful action, senator of the simple maxim. I swear for a skillful Saxon, I'm still relaxing. Who wanna take a dip in the mind sauce, making up for the time lost, forgetting all my passwords when I sign off. Prime bribe, prime rib, Agent Smith, crime boss, popping red pills till my mind's off, mind's off. First Florida man. First Florida man. Endo de Soto. First Florida man. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Won't you so loco? Show off your photos. Throw out your Twinkies. Throw up your ho-hos. Tuck in them pinkies. Them shits a no-no. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Brought to my attention by the man with the mojo. My 8 subscriber, I'm a fagoso. Jump in them sinkies and dump them mimosos. The first Florida man was Hernando de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. First Florida man was Hernando de Soto. Threw up that blue pill, moved to a new track. I slew the foothills of that voodoo sap. Microfiche tape decks, I'll sift through that, cause I'll do anything to get the old Simpsons back. Give me the news that make my mood react. I'll swim through the sewer just to make it to the truth intact. And you can shine up that voodoo with new shellac. I'll still do anything to get the old Simpsons back. Imagine thinking Karl Marx is new school Klingon like Huzu. They welcome the ways they can bring on the boots, dude. Declare a major, they get paid to pollute you. Self-ashamed neighbors never gaze when they scoop you. I wonder how we fight it. The 6th step is never enter in my tent uninvited. The 5th step is produce, no skills is no use. 4th step community preference is unity. 3rd step is nation, it's somewhat location, mostly relations, that's the situation. Next step, family, patriarchal sanity. Safe under the canopy, ain't a place for anarchy. First step, I just got to say it, no showboat. Step back and soak up the logos. First Florida